Dr. Bennett, let's not make this emotional. We've just decided to go in a different direction. That was it. That's how 12 years of your life can end. Not with an argument, not even a handshake, but with a carefully rehearsed sentence delivered by someone who won't look you in the eye. I stood in his office holding a cup of cold coffee I'd made that morning. Back when I still thought this was just another Tuesday. He was saying something about new leadership, about fresh energy and young blood. But all I heard was this: "You're no longer wanted." He didn't meet my gaze. Not once. Behind him on the windowsill sat 3 ficus plants I had brought in from Home Depot years ago. One of them, half dead at the time, I nursed back to life after everyone else gave up on it. We used to joke it was our chronic patient. Now it was the only living thing in this room that had ever appreciated me. My name is Allison Bennett. I'm 44 years old and I've been a family doctor at Maple Ridge Medical in Raleigh, North Carolina for the last 12 years. I don't have a TED Talk. I'm not featured in any journals. But I know what it means to earn someone's trust, to hold a child's hand through a fever, to be there for a widower who doesn't know who else to call, to remember a patient's story long after the prescription runs out. I joined this clinic when it was barely staying afloat. The walls in the pediatric room were painted a depressing shade of gray, and the only coffee machine was an ancient drip pot that leaked. I stayed late. I bought paint. I painted a rainbow on the wall myself on a Sunday with Joyce, our head nurse. And slowly, people started to come in. And more importantly, they came back. We grew. We built something. Not just a place to get a checkup, a place where people felt seen, known. And all of that meant nothing now. Because Mr. Chandler, the new administrator, had a niece. A fresh med school grad from Florida. Pretty. Instagram savvy. And apparently that was enough to replace 12 years of patient care. "I understand," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice from cracking. "When should I collect my things?" He shrugged. "Whenever's good for you. We can provide a reference if needed. Positive one, of course. You know how it is." I nodded, set the coffee down on the edge of his desk, and left. Straight-backed. Silent. The hallway felt longer than usual. Nurse Sarah looked up at me as I passed, and I caught something in her eyes. Guilt maybe. Or regret. She must have known. Or guessed. In the locker room I packed what little was mine. A white coat, a thermos, a notepad filled with patient notes, and a few small keepsakes. A plush bear with Dr. Allison Heal's best stitched across its chest. A gift from Joshua. A boy I treated for asthma who now plays baseball like nothing ever happened. I stepped out into the parking lot. The sun hit me full in the face. The air still held traces of morning rain, and everything smelled damp, like a world trying to start over. I got into my car, placed the box on the passenger seat, and just sat there. For 20 minutes I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I just stared at the dashboard, wondering what it all meant. Wondering who I was now. You'd think I'd feel angry. Or embarrassed. But all I felt was hollow. Like someone had reached inside and unplugged me. It wasn't just the job. It was the meaning. The rhythm. The place where I'd poured so much of my identity. All erased in a meeting that lasted 6 minutes. I didn't tell anyone. Not my husband. Not my best friend. Not even myself out loud. I just drove home. Walked into the bedroom. And lay down on the bed, still fully dressed. Do you know what feeling hit me the hardest? Not rage. Not shame. It was emptiness. Like I'd become invisible overnight. The next morning I woke up around 11. Made coffee. Opened the window in my kitchen and stood there barefoot, feeling the breeze against my skin. I didn't check emails. I didn't update my resume. Instead, I said something I hadn't said in years. I think I'm going to take a break. No job hunting. No plotting. Just quiet. Just a week. To rest. To breathe. I dusted off my old French press. Made real coffee, strong, earthy with cream. Drank it on the porch. Watched the neighborhood wake up. I didn't know where this was going. But I knew one thing. I'd earned this pause. Sometimes all you really need is quiet. And a mug of coffee made in your own kitchen. Not in the break room, not in between patient charts, just for you. No schedule. No calls. No urgent emails waiting to be opened. The morning after I was let go, I didn't open my inbox. I didn't call HR. Didn't text any colleagues. I just wandered around the house in pajamas and let myself do something I hadn't done in a decade. Nothing. Felt strange. I woke up late, sometime close to 11. My head felt foggy with silence. No reminders. No ringing phones. Just me, the couch, and the unfamiliar feeling of stillness. I brewed a real cup of coffee, not the office sludge, but something strong and warm, made in the old French press tucked away in the back of the pantry. I poured it into my big ceramic mug, the one that read Doctor of the Year, the one my coworkers gave me 4 Christmases ago. Funny how a mug can go from being just a vessel to a lifeline. Yesterday it was a joke. Today it felt like an anchor. My husband looked at me over breakfast puzzled. "You okay?" he asked, watching me not rush, not glance at my phone, not gulp my coffee standing up. "I took a vacation," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You don't take vacations. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. A long one. Then said it out loud for the first time. "I don't work at Maple Ridge anymore." He froze. "You quit?" "No. I was let go." We talked. For a long time. I told him everything, how they called me in, how the meeting barely lasted 5 minutes, how they used words like fresh perspective and rebranding while smiling like it didn't gut me, how the administrator's niece was stepping in young, blonde, and fresh out of med school. He was furious. I wasn't. I had already moved past the anger. I was somewhere deeper in that hollow space grief leaves behind when it's done screaming. We decided to leave the house for a while. Nothing dramatic, just a short drive outside Raleigh to Jordan Lake. We sat by the water, watched clouds ripple in the reflection. I realized something that day: when your whole identity has been tied to movement and purpose for so long, stillness can feel like failure. But it's not. It's healing in disguise. On the 3rd day of my break, my phone rang. Unknown number. Local area code, 984. I nearly let it go to voicemail. But something told me to pick up. "Hello, is this Dr. Allison Bennett?" "Speaking." "Hi, I'm Leslie Harris. I'm the operations director at Clearview Medical Center. We've heard amazing things about you from a number of patients who used to be seen at Maple Ridge. I was wondering if you'd be open to meeting." I blinked. "Honestly? I just got fired." "I understand. But we're not just looking for credentials, Dr. Bennett. We're looking for someone people trust. And according to every patient we've spoken to, that's you." We set up a meeting for Friday. I wasn't looking for a job. Not yet. But I was curious. Maybe even a little hopeful. The moment I walked into Clearview's lobby, I knew this wasn't just another clinic. It was warm. Modern. Not just in its design, in its energy. The receptionist smiled like she meant it. Real photos of staff hung on the walls, not stock images. Real kids' drawings. Real names. Real thank you notes pinned to bulletin boards. Leslie greeted me with a firm handshake and bright eyes. "I'll be honest with you," she said. "We're not just hiring. We're building something. And we don't just want good doctors, we want the ones people remember when they're scared. The ones they trust with their parents and their kids." I didn't know what to say. She showed me a sample office, light-filled, modern, peaceful. There were succulents on the windowsill and a fresh tablet waiting on the desk. And then she said, "We're prepared to offer you a full-time position. Salary above market average, full benefits, PTO, and full autonomy over your schedule. No red tape. No politics. Just care." I walked out in a daze. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because for the first time in days I felt seen. That night, back at home, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine and watched the streetlights flicker on. And just as I leaned back to take it all in, a message came through. "Dr. Bennett, I don't know if you remember me, but you treated my son a few years ago. We heard you're no longer at Maple Ridge. Please let us know where you're practicing now. We'd like to stay with you." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, not practicing anywhere yet. But soon. I promise. On the 4th day after I was let go, I checked my inbox again. Not because I had to, just out of curiosity. Maybe a little hunger for hope. There were 8 emails waiting. All from patients. One was from Emma, whose father was recovering from a stroke. She said he refused to see anyone else, he'd only let me check on him. Another from Jake and Maddie, a young couple I had seen through their first miscarriage and into a second, healthier pregnancy. They said they'd follow me anywhere. And there was a short but unforgettable message from a boy named Cody. "Dr. Bennett, are you still working?" My throat hurts again. I read Cody's message out loud to my husband. He just looked at me and said, "These people don't just want a Dr. Ellie. They want you. That Friday, I walked back into Clearview not as a guest, but as a candidate. Leslie greeted me like we were old friends. We walked through the facility. She didn't give me a tour. She gave me a vision. The way she talked about patients, about community care, about listening before prescribing, I felt like I was breathing in fresh air. This place wasn't just clean and efficient. It was warm. The reception area was full of light. People smiled when they passed by. One nurse waved from the hallway and said, "You're the one with the fan club, huh?" Leslie brought me to a corner office. Wide windows. Soft gray walls. A real wooden desk, not particle board. On the counter sat a ceramic jar of peppermint sticks, and in the corner, a chair with a quilt tossed over the back. Someone's touch. Someone's care. If you say yes, Leslie said, this space is yours. We'll finalize the contract today. I blinked. Just like that. She smiled. You're not a gamble, Dr. Bennett. You're a proven story. I left Clearview and walked across the street to a little cafe I used to love but hadn't visited in years. Sat by the window with a cup of tea and just stared out. I didn't feel triumphant or relieved. I felt still, like the world had stopped spinning just long enough to let me catch up. That night, I signed the offer. On Monday morning, I started my first shift. My new team greeted me with coffee and a small box of pastries with a note on top. Welcome home, Dr. Bennett. We've been waiting. That first day was a blur. I met patients, some old, some new. One little girl burst into the room and yelled, "Mom." That's her. I remember her. She hugged me so tightly I almost couldn't breathe. Her name was Haley. I treated her for mono 3 years ago. Now she was taller, brighter, and she remembered me. By mid-afternoon, my eyes were stinging from holding back emotion. One woman came in for a routine checkup, then lingered at the door before leaving. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I don't know what it is about you, but I feel better just sitting here." That night, I received an email on my new work account. "Dear Dr. Bennett, I'm Richard Price, Executive Director at Clearview. I wanted to personally welcome you. I've read the letters patients have written about you, and it's clear you're not just a doctor. You're someone people hold on to when life gets hard. We're honored to have you." I read the email 3 times. Not because I doubted it, but because I needed to feel it settle inside me. Like sunlight warming the last corners of a long, cold room. And then, later that week, a message from Joyce. Joyce, the head nurse from Maple Ridge. My battle buddy. My rainbow wall painting partner. "Ellie, the clinic's falling apart. People keep asking where you are. Patients are leaving in groups. The niece, she's in over her head. She made a dosing error on a diabetic patient and misdiagnosed a viral case as bacterial. Chandler's panicking. I think he's going to try to crawl back to you. But don't you dare go back. You're better than that." I closed the message and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time since I was let go, I allowed myself to smile. I knew Joyce was right. But if I was honest, some small, still part of me kind of wanted him to ask. Not because I'd say yes, but because saying no would mean everything. 1 week into my new life at Clearview, I got a call from Joyce. She didn't say hello, just started talking in that half-laugh, half-whisper voice people use when something is so satisfying it feels like a secret. "Ellie, you're not going to believe this," she said. "Yesterday we had chaos. Half the patients just didn't show up. The other half walked out before their appointments even started." I blinked, half smiling. "Walked out? Why?" "You." It took me a second. "They're not there for the building, Ellie. They were there for you. And now you're gone." She paused, then added, "And let me tell you, your replacement? She's floundering. The niece. Ashley. Miss Future of Medicine. She had the white coat, the Instagram followers, the fresh diploma from Florida. But not the hands, the instincts, or the heart. At first, I didn't want to hear about Maple Ridge. I was too busy learning new names, writing notes, showing up early, and soaking up joy I hadn't felt in years. But stories started trickling in. Emma, the woman with the stroke-affected father, wrote me again. We tried to see someone else. He didn't read the history, called my father the wrong name, and forgot half the medications. We walked out. A long-time hypertension patient came to my new office, sat across from me and said, "I waited 45 minutes. Then they said the doctor was running behind. I told them I was too old for this kind of disrespect. And I came to you." It kept happening, like raindrops that turned into a downpour. A few days later, Tom, another longtime physician from Maple Ridge, called. "Ellie, you won't believe this. We had 5 patients. Total. All day. Used to be 20 per doctor minimum. Chandler's freaking out. He called a staff meeting and blamed everything from scheduling software to moon phases. But we all know what it is. He built a clinic around a person and then pushed that person out. Then Tom added, "Oh, and you're about to have a visitor." Chandler left here with a bouquet and a gift bag. I bet he's headed your way. I almost laughed. To do what? Beg? I think. That morning Clearview was full of life. Kids laughing in the waiting room. A man brought cupcakes for the front desk team. Someone brought a thank you card just for being listened to. And in the middle of that warmth and normalcy, he walked in. Gray suit. Tired eyes. A paper bag in one hand and roses in the other. Mr. Chandler. The same man who sat across from me and said, "We're going in a different direction." Now he was the one lost. He hesitated at the front desk, then spotted me in the hallway. "Dr. Bennett," he said, stepping forward. I didn't respond right away. I finished signing the patient chart in my hand, set down my pen, then looked up. Mr. Chandler. He looked smaller, like someone had unplugged the confidence that used to power him. He held out the flowers. I didn't take them. I was hoping we could speak. Privately, if you don't mind. Right here's fine. He glanced around at the bright modern office. The buzz of conversation. The patient smiling. The flow. "Look," he started, "I made a mistake. A huge one. I waited. I shouldn't have let you go. I thought we could manage with someone new, someone with a fresh take. But we lost our core. Our patients left. Our staff morale is, well, it's gone." I tilted my head slightly. "So now what? We want you back." "No, we need you back. Name your salary. We'll double it. Full autonomy. Your own schedule. I'll make you senior clinical director if you want. Just come home." I exhaled slowly. Not from nerves. Not from emotion. From peace. Because in that moment I felt something click inside me. Like a door had finally closed. And I wasn't on the wrong side of it. I was walking away from a house that was already falling apart. "No," I said. He blinked. "I'm sorry. No. I'm not coming back." His mouth opened, then closed again. "You probably think I got what I deserved," he muttered. I shrugged. "I don't think about you that much, Mr. Chandler. I think about my patients. My team. My purpose. And I've already found where that lives." He nodded. Looked down. Turned and walked out the door, roses still in hand. I watched him leave. Then turned around and went back to work. Because sometimes power isn't in slamming the door. It's in never needing to knock on it again. Chandler left the building the same way I once had, quietly, with a face that said more than his words ever could. This time, though, I wasn't the one carrying a box of personal items. He was the one holding a bouquet no one asked for. I stood in the hallway for a minute after he left. Not smiling. Not angry. Just still. Like the air had finally cleared. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was clarity. I didn't expect it to be so easy to say no. But when he started talking about salary bumps, flexible hours, and leadership roles, I realized I no longer needed what he was offering. And more importantly, I no longer wanted it. That night, my husband opened a bottle of wine and raised his glass. "To the quietest revenge ever delivered," he said with a grin. I clinked my glass against his. "Wasn't revenge," I said. "Just closure." We sat on the porch, warm night air brushing past, streetlights flickering on one by one. My phone kept buzzing with messages. "Ellie, I heard what happened. I'm proud of you. That was power. You did what the rest of us only dream about. You walked away with your dignity intact. You didn't just say no to him. You said yes to yourself." They were right. The next morning I arrived at Clearview to find a pink bakery box on my desk. Inside, a dozen donuts and a note written in big, blocky Sharpa letters. "Dr. Bennett here to stay. Love." The team. Later that afternoon, an older couple came in, the Watsons. He was 84, had early-stage memory loss. She had arthritis in both knees. They'd been my patients for almost 10 years. When I walked into the room, he turned to his wife and said, "Is that her? The one who left?" She nodded. "She didn't leave, sweetheart. She just moved somewhere better." He smiled at me with a look I'll never forget. Then we're in the right place. That evening, I was finishing notes when my phone rang again. Unknown number. Local area code. I answered on instinct. "Hello." Pause. "Dr. Bennett?" It's Ashley. Ashley Chandler." I stayed quiet for a beat. Her voice was nothing like I remembered, no gloss, no attitude, no arrogance. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry. I thought I could handle it. I really did. I thought school had prepared me. But I was wrong." She sounded tired. Raw. "I made mistakes. I lost patience. I thought being a doctor meant writing prescriptions and smiling for reviews. But it's more. It's knowing people. It's remembering their fears. It's caring when no one's watching." She took a shaky breath. "I watched what you did and I didn't understand it. Now I do. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I see it now." I let her words hang in the air for a long moment. Then I answered, "Thank you, Ashley. That means more than you know." And I meant it. Because what she gave me wasn't forgiveness or apology. It was a reflection. Proof that everything I stood for still mattered. Proof that kindness doesn't go unnoticed, even when the room is full of people who think otherwise. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from stress, but because for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt peace. Not temporary relief. Not adrenaline. Real grounded, heavy peace. Like I'd finally put down something I didn't realize I'd been carrying. The next morning I arrived early. Earlier than usual. I unlocked the clinic, brewed the first pot of coffee, and stood by the window as the sun began to rise. The world outside hadn't changed. Same cars. Same sidewalks. Same trees. But I had changed. I pulled out my notebook, the one I used to jot down reminders and thoughts between patients, and I wrote, "I didn't win anything. I just chose myself." And that made all the difference. I still remember the first time I saw my name on the new office door. Dr. Allison Bennett, MD, and just beneath it, in soft italics, "Family Medicine. Trusted by generations." I chuckled the first time I read that line. That's a bit much, don't you think? I joked to Leslie. She shook her head. No. That's exactly who you are. Now a month later I stand in front of that same door every morning and think, maybe it was never too much. Maybe it was just the truth finally catching up. My schedule is full 2 weeks out. People book online, call in, leave messages with the front desk. My office is filled with drawings from kids, thank you cards, and the occasional homemade banana bread that gets devoured before lunch. But it's not the gifts or the appointments that matter. It's the energy. The way people walk in nervous, unsure, and leave with a little more light in their eyes. It's the way parents sigh with relief when I say, "I remember your daughter had this reaction last spring." Right? It's the trust, thick, steady, real. One Friday, a young woman came in with her 6-year-old daughter. I hadn't seen her since she was a teenager. Back then, she was dealing with anxiety and panic attacks. Now she was a mother, calm, grounded. "I knew exactly who I wanted my daughter's doctor to be," she said. "You helped me breathe again once. I want her to grow up knowing someone like you is in her corner." I had to step out of the room afterward and take a minute. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because in that moment everything made sense. That was my revenge. Not in bitterness. Not in "I told you so." But in being exactly where I was meant to be without compromise. Every Friday, Clearview hosts an open lunch. No agenda. No pressure. Just people gathered around tables, sharing stories and snacks. One afternoon, Richard, the executive director, stood up with a cup of coffee and said, "When we hired Dr. Bennett, we thought we were getting a strong addition to the team. What we got was a culture shift." The room went quiet. She brought something back that we almost forgot mattered. Continuity, compassion, connection. People don't line up for furniture or paint colors. They show up for people they trust. Everyone clapped. I turned beet red. But inside I felt something rise, like roots settling deeper into the ground. Like I wasn't just working. I was rooted. A few days later, I parked near the old Maple Ridge office. Not on purpose, I was grabbing lunch nearby. But when I walked past, I noticed the windows were covered in brown paper. The front door had a printed notice taped to the glass. Temporarily closed for restructuring. Thank you for your understanding. I didn't go any closer. Didn't peer inside. Just stood there for a moment. I thought I'd feel something. Maybe vindication. Maybe sadness. But all I felt was distance. That place no longer held any piece of me. I whispered under my breath. "I didn't leave you. I outgrew you." Now my evenings look different. I used to come home exhausted, staring at the ceiling, wondering, what am I doing wrong? Now I light a candle, pour a cup of tea, and think, look how far I've come. Joyce, my old nurse, came by last week. We sat on the porch wrapped in throw blankets, watching the sky melt into dusk. You know, she said, sipping her coffee, for a long time I thought if we left the system we'd fall apart. Turns out, that's when we actually started building something. I nodded. There was nothing more to say. This story isn't about ambition or titles. It's about returning to yourself. It's about standing in the ruins of what once defined you and realizing you're still whole. I'm not afraid of change anymore. I don't chase positions. I don't cling to praise. Because now I know, I bring the value. I carry the trust. And it moves with me wherever I go. I'm no longer the doctor tied to a clinic's name. Now I'm the name that patients follow. Because I listened. Because I stayed. Because I never stopped caring even when they stopped caring about me. So here I am. In a sunlit office. With crayon rainbows taped to the wall. And patients who call me the doctor who remembers. Not because I hold on to charts. But because I never let go of them.